Show me what you got, shawty. Show me what you got, baby. Hands up and wave. Hey, welcome. We're going live here. We're gonna be great topic today. Again, this is I'm Seth Lewis, founder of Momentum U, and my goal is to help business owners succeed. And through Momentum U, we've been having awesome success of combining mindset and strategy. And when you the two meet, you have explosive momentum. So I appreciate you tuning in and following this. There's a couple places that you can follow us. You can follow us on, on here. We go live in the groups. We're on LinkedIn. We're on YouTube. A couple other places. So I appreciate you following along. Today, people ask me like, what is momentum? How do you do it? And what's the steps? So I thought, we just got done with a premium series. We talked about premium, how to be premium in your business, which is cool. Selling high ticket. Awesome. You charge a lot of money. After you pay everything, you still have some money left at the end of the day. So that's something that was a great series. Had a lot of positive feedback on that. So it was a great time. Last week, we talked about limiting beliefs and these beliefs that we have that hold us back from being our best self in our personally and in our business. So something that's great. I also would like, if you have questions, if you want to put in a comment or, ask something as we do it, I'd be happy to give you a shout out or, help you with something as we do this. So limiting beliefs, really great topic. Today, we're going to talk about awareness and blind spots. What does awareness have to do with momentum? So that's one. How will awareness lead to explosive momentum? I like explosive momentum. There's nothing better than it just taking off. Because when you have momentum on your side, it makes everything you do easier. So important to get momentum on your side. Does this apply to me? Can I have momentum? And the answer is yes. The good news is a lot of times you have the tools, you just don't have the playbook to put them all together. So that's what we do here at Momentum U. And the other thing I want to highlight, and I say this at most of the beginnings of my broadcast, before this I do a group that's about 80,000 people. So it's pretty cool. But I always play a little music. I have it leading up to it. Just design your life the way you want it to be. I mean, that is so important. You're going to hear me start off the segments with that a lot of times, is design your life the way you want it to be. If you're a business owner, create your presentation, create how you do it, how you want to do it, how you show up best for what you do. It'll change everything. Now, I think about how we've done Zoom meetings and how everything changed with COVID and everything else. And don't be in the status quo. Don't show up the same way that everybody else does. Now's a great time to reinvent what you do and try some different things. So there's no real roadmap. This is new territory. So feel free to be creative and do some other things. But back to the topic, awareness is the foundation of momentum. You can't fix what you don't know. So recently I was at a wedding and I was talking to an individual, and this person was just up in my grill. So like right in my face, talking to me about just whatever, not in a bad way, just at a wedding. So this guy's like in my grill, like I'm stepping back. I took a step back and they took a step forward. I took a step back. They took a step forward. We did this for about 10 yards. And they never even knew that they did it. And it made me think of like businesses and how businesses are like this. This individual obviously has a blind spot. How many of us know a close talker? So somebody that's like up in your space like this. And so this individual, I'm like, man, with everything going on, like COVID, it just made me think. My wife's actually a school teacher, and she has to wear one of those shields. And she said one of the grossest thing about the shields is you see who the people that like spray and they don't clean their shield. So you realize how much people spit when they talk, which is kind of disgusting. But anyway, so this individual that was doing this was not aware of the fact that they're just in my space. So I look at that and say, why? A couple questions I have. Why didn't I say anything? So why didn't I tell this individual, like, hey, you're in my space, you keep getting closer, like everything going on in the world, COVID, I would like if you stood 6 feet away, not 6 inches away. I didn't say anything. I guess I didn't want to make it awkward. I don't know why I didn't. But then I also thought, why doesn't anybody else say anything to this individual that's always talking close talkers? It's just the worst. So when I thought about this, it made me think, like, why is that happening? And why don't we say anything? And it made me think about businesses. What businesses and organizations have the same issue? We have these issues where we don't know that they are, and I call them blind spots. So this individual clearly had a blind spot, clearly had something that he didn't know that was going on. And he didn't pick up that we moved 10 yards and he just kept following me. Unbelievable. So this is a really problem, and a blind spot occurs because we're not aware of it. The best people that identify blind spots are typically our customers. Because what you find is customers are able to identify these blind spots, and how they do it, they don't tell you. That's the part that confuses everything or makes it interesting. They don't tell you that you have a blind spot. They show up by their purchasing. They show up how they tell people. And you say, well, think about this. Organizations will reach out and they'll say, hey, will you tell me, here's a survey to fill out. Let me know how we're doing. So what ends up happening is the customer fills out the survey that they want them to do. They usually say what they want, and they never give them any substance. Now, let's look at this another way. Let's pretend that you had a customer ask one of your customers. So again, they're on the same team. People like to be on the same team. Same thing with like management and field staff or whatever. There's just a natural thing. So if a customer reaches out to another customer and says, hey, what do you think of this company? Should I buy from them or should I not? They will give you the real answer. And that's what you're really looking for, and that will help you identify the blind spot. So when we talk about momentum, the first step in establishing momentum is awareness. It's about having an awareness and identifying what blind spots you may have. It's a lot harder than it sounds. So, very, very interesting. The other thing is coaches can help you identify blind spots. So if you're somebody that has a coach, they are somebody that will help give you honest, candid feedback that will help accelerate your momentum. Mentors could be somebody that does that. It could also be family or friends. The trouble with family or friends is they don't want that awkwardness. So just like me at the wedding, I didn't say anything to the close talker because I just dealt with it. So I know, and everybody else knows. And an example that I love to use is bad breath. Bad breath is something that if you have it, everybody else knows you have it, but you don't know you have it. But if you think about that, if you identify that blind spot, if somebody says, dude, you have bad breath, then what happens? You're able to solve the problem very quickly and very efficiently. You could have a Tic Tac, you could have some gum, you could brush your teeth, but the problem is solved pretty easily. So when we talk about blind spots, awareness, if you can, the foundation of momentum is being able to identify and have an awareness and identify the blind spots. When you do this, you will begin to unlock a journey of momentum. It's the first step in building momentum. What happens so many times is organizations don't do the work that it takes. They send out the survey and the customer fills it out the way they want it to, what they want to say. And they never get the real information. And without that information, you can't build momentum. It just doesn't happen. So it's interesting. So again, if you look at the bad breath example, you could say, well, if I have bad breath, they probably tell people. So think about your customers. If they know that you're doing something, when somebody asks for honest feedback, not the company, but somebody that's another customer, say, hey, would you use this company? They will tell you that they have bad breath, but they never tell the company because they don't want that awkwardness. So I have a couple things of blind spots in business. I want to highlight a couple different things that may stand out. One of them is not getting feedback from your team. If you don't get feedback from your team and you try to attack it on your own, you may think that you have the solution, but you could be leading a staff that's disengaged. We all know that disengaged staff is very, very costly. Very costly. An engaged staff sometimes will do 20% more. So if you have 5 people, you get a bonus person as a free person at 6, if that makes sense. Because 20% more times 5 is an extra person. It's a big deal. Being insensitive around others and making maybe comments or behaviors. If you think about this could be a blind spot in your organization. If you're wondering why maybe you can't retain people or you're not attracting the right people, it could be the blind spot of maybe what you say or how you act. If you're saying things that lead people to away from your organization, it's a blind spot. Who do you have? And I would love if you put in the chat or the comments, but when's the last somebody pointed out a blind spot for you? Doesn't always have to be negative. It doesn't have to be like a terrible thing. But the idea is, how do you start momentum if you're not aware of what's going on? It's really fundamental. But comments that you make, even to your customers, maybe you tell the same joke, and maybe it's not a bad joke, but maybe it's a little bit makes a customer uncomfortable, or maybe how you show up or something, and you don't even realize it. So again, a blind spot. What do you do to understand that? We talked about in the series before about, are you clear in who your customer is? If you're not clear who your customer is, that could be a blind spot. And the blind spot is because 9 out of 10 people that I work with, they say that they're clear. And after we do some work, they realize that they were the furthest thing from clear, and they have no idea who their real customer is that's going to lead them to be able to charge premium and make money to the bottom line. It's a big deal. That's a blind spot. Thinking your customer knows your value. We covered value in one of our topics. And when you think about that, a blind spot is basically, in other words, lying to yourself, convincing yourself that your customer knows your value and that you don't understand why they're not buying. That's a blind spot. Blind spots always show up in symptoms. So just like when you go to the doctor, you have symptoms and the doctor tries to figure out what they are. Blind spots and awareness, if you don't have it and it's not working right, it's going to show up in symptoms. So if you're having symptoms in your organization, if you're having symptoms in your business, there's a good chance that there's some blind spots that are hiding in there that are causing and leading to the symptoms. So when we identify the blind spots, similar to the bad breath, I love that example because so many people can have an experience of somebody, smelling bad breath. You can fix it easily. Thinking that you're valuable and you're not, that's a good one. I mean, we all think, and this is human nature, we all think we're more valuable than we truly may be. So if we think that and our customer doesn't think that, that's a blind spot. That's a way that it's just not going to line up. The people that have the I know attitude, if you always know the solution, that's a blind spot. Again, we're talking about blind spots and being aware of them is the foundation of momentum. It's the way that you can actually begin to unlock momentum. And I love it because, again, at Momentum U, we combine mindset work with strategy. And when the two meet, there's explosion, and that creates momentum. It's really exciting stuff. Do you avoid difficult situations or conversations? I had a client that had a subcontractor, and the subcontractor was not sure and was not clear about how the compensation worked. So as we had our coaching calls and I was working with them, I finally said, like, have you taken care of this? Have you taken care of this? And it just kept getting pushed off. And we finally said, this has to be taken care of, or it's going to cause greater grief down the road. So this was a blind spot to the impact of what not realizing the impact of not having this conversation is going to have when he's short a sub, he can't get his work done, and it just has huge implications in his business. If you can't get your work done because you don't have the sub, you can't bill your customers, you can't pay things, and at the end of the day, you don't have money. There's a compounding effect that we never calculate. I call them, in a lot of the things that I teach, as hidden costs, and we never calculate this. So it's so important to be able to have those conversations and not avoid them, because that blind spot will hold us back. Do we blame others for circumstances? When you talk to somebody, are they constantly blaming somebody else? But they don't realize they're doing it, and nobody else has ever told them that they're doing it. But what do? When you leave from meeting that individual or being around that individual, you say, man, they're doing it again. They just blame everybody else. That individual has a blind spot, and that's holding them back from their ultimate success or momentum. So until you have awareness around these topics, you can't have momentum. And I hate to say that to people. Now, somebody will say, well, yes, I can have momentum. I've had momentum. And I will say, I agree with you. And here's where I agree. Your momentum looks like this because I've experienced this. Your momentum goes up, and there gets to a point where it just goes back down. And you keep doing this all the time, but you're not creating sustainable, what I call and define as true momentum, consistently on the up. So again, talking about blind spots and awareness to them is the foundation of momentum. Another thing is treating commitments casually. So how you handle interactions, you think you're doing fine, but like when you leave, they're like, I can't believe that individual was late again, or they didn't show up, or they're not serious about this, or whatever it may be, start to hold you back. These are all awareness and blind spots that you have to do a deep dive into and understand, are these, and how do you do it? The example I gave earlier, people don't want to tell you these things. They always tell somebody else, but they never tell you that you're having these symptoms. It'd be easier if people just said, man, hey, you have bad breath, and then you could just fix it, but it doesn't work like that. So you have to be creative. You either have to do creative research with your customers and have people, find out that way. You can hire a coach, a mentor. It could be somebody in the family if they're going to give you open, honest feedback. It's so important. Maybe it's not taking a stand for something. Maybe it's not having definitive leadership. Definitive leadership is one where you think you're being the leader that you dreamed of or you're supposed to be, and then you're not. But everybody else knows that you're not that leader, but you think you are the leader. That's a blind spot. So in order to unleash and unlock and have a life of abundance and just be killing it, you have to do a deep dive first with yourself and understand, like, where are these blind spots? Where are they showing up? Because if you can identify where they're showing up, you can solve them. And I have good news for you. You can live a life of abundance. You can unlock momentum that you have only dreamed about to this point. See, a lot of times people dream about this momentum. They dream about where they want to go. But when they actually start the business and they get into it, they realize it's a lot more difficult than they thought. You have the tools, and you've been building all these putting all these tools in your tool belt. One of them is going to a leadership conference. You put that in your tool belt. One of them is watching an online webinar on culture. You put that in your tool belt. You put all these things in your tool belt, but you never actually read the manual on how to put them all together. That's what Momentum U is. We've taken all the tools that build momentum and put them together, and when they meet, it's explosive. It's exciting. This one was coming up was one of my blind spots. It was tolerating good enough. And I was blind to it for so long. I tolerated good enough team members and staff. I tolerated good enough work quality. It wasn't bad enough to let somebody go or terminate somebody, but it wasn't enough to get our customers excited about what we were doing. It wasn't good enough to drive our organization to the next level. Tolerating good enough will never get you to greatness. Tolerating average won't let you win the championship. If you're in business and you're committed to being the best you can be and to winning the championship, I like to say winning the championship. I want to win a championship every year in business. And I set out to do that. That doesn't mean we win we have really tough times. I'll be the first to tell you that we've had extremely challenging times in business. We've had ups and downs. But every time you go back to the drawing board and you get your team and you rally for the next season, there's a new season and you go to win the championship. So that was one of my blind spots is I didn't realize that one of the reasons that was holding us back was because we were just tolerating good enough. It was good enough. We were letting it go and it just wasn't good enough. When you commit to that, you're going to have some transition. You're going to have people that fight you tooth and nail. They say, this isn't the way it was. This isn't the way we used to do it. It's going to be a battle, but you have to commit to your plan. I'm excited about some of the content that's in my book. I'm not going to put it all out there, but some of the organizations that have done these exact things and have seen explosive momentum, it's putting all this together and it's giving you the roadmap with all the tools. My favorite thing about Momentum U is we use the tools that you have is putting the framework together that makes it explode. We combine mindset with strategy. And when those two do, you have a lot of the strategy part. You've been working on strategy for a lot of years. You have an MBA, you have a degree, you have the School of Hard Knocks, you have a lot of experience, whatever it may be, that's over here. Your strategy is good. But when you put the mindset with it, it just is explosive. It's exciting. There's nothing like it. So, if you haven't yet and you want to understand how this works in your business, set up a call with me. You can go to explosivemomentum.com and at the bottom there's a spot where you can subscribe or you can set up a call with me and we'll talk about how we can do it in your business. There's no cost. It just makes sense. The impact is crazy. I also want to think you have to look at the inverse. So what is the inverse of not identifying your blind spots? Let's look at sales. Sales is always an important topic, hot topic. You want to know how to sell more. So sales. Let's say you want to have you have a 20% closing ratio right now. And you want it to be 40%. But you don't realize that in the process that you're dealing with, you're handling a customer, you're saying something, maybe inconsiderate, the way that you're doing it, and it's chasing off 20% of those closes. Now, if your sales plan is $500,000, that is costing you or your organization, depending if you're the salesperson or you're the sales manager, that's $100,000 in sales. That's a big deal. It could be something that small, but it's a blind spot. So imagine if you identify that blind spot, you identify that where you're having a hiccup in your sales process, you close 20% more, you get an impact of another $100,000. How does that start to change your impact? Let's say you have 10 sales reps. That, by my calculation, is $1 million. The impact for these things is exponential. So if you want to say like, well, blind spots aren't important, I have news for you that they are, and they are stifling your organization's momentum or your momentum. If you can identify them, the inverse happens. You unlock momentum. You unlock opportunities that you didn't see before, and it becomes so exciting and fun, and you begin to live a life of abundance. And that is always, amazing. So, I want to encourage you, when we look at this, we're talking about blind spots and we're talking about awareness. I would encourage you, if you're a business owner, ask yourself, when is the last time that you identified your blind spots? When have you done a deep dive into yourself and things that may be holding you back? Areas that you're not even aware of. Who is somebody in your circle or on your team that's able to do that? It's not necessarily, it might not be a boss. Maybe it's a mentor. Who's somebody that can have honest conversations, and how can you get honest feedback and conversations from your customers? These areas make a big deal in starting momentum, and the foundation of momentum is awareness. If you can do this, it will change your organization. You will start on a journey. And again, momentum is pieces to the puzzle, but it will start your foundation so solid that you will start picking up momentum faster, and faster. If you like this content, you can subscribe. We have some different spots. You can go to explosivemomentum.com. I'll also put a couple links of where you can find out more about Momentum U. Again, we take mindset work and we combine it with strategy, the stuff but when they meet, they explode and you have explosive momentum. I would love to hop on a call with you. I would love to be your coach. If you're a business owner and you're not sure how to do this and you want to have momentum, if you're not where you want to be, if you're having challenges in your organization, whether it's sales, retention, many times it's because of blind spots. It's because of areas that you might not see. So sometimes hopping on a call with somebody like myself can help you talk through where they may be. And then you can go your separate way. You can go and say, hey, I can handle it from here. If you want to continue and work with me ongoing, you can. I would love to be your coach, because I can guarantee that you will experience explosive momentum on our process and through Momentum U. The last thing that I'll say around the topic is, why wait? I have a lot of people that hit the end of the road and they're ready for change, but they waited so long. So if you're having any of these symptoms, and blind spots show up as symptoms, initially you say you don't have blind spots. When you start to look at the symptoms, they will take you back and connect you to the blind spots. So I ask it, don't wait. Don't wait till it gets so bad that you're desperate. Don't wait, because I can assure you in 8 weeks, you will have 100% ROI on the investment on our program. I guarantee it. There's so much impact and you can scale up so quickly. So identify the blind spots, become aware of what may be holding you back, and drive forward. I'm here to be your biggest cheerleader. Sometimes as an owner, there aren't people cheering you on. I'm in your corner and I want to be your coach. Follow me, connect with me, reach out. And I look forward to helping you drive your momentum, because with momentum, everything is easier. Thanks for watching.